That was a crazy segment. Glad we could start things off on the right foot, paying homage to episode one many moons ago. But now, you know what I'm saying? The co-host with the mostest, you know, I'm excited to let you run us into this next segment. So take it away, sir.
But no. Welcome to Versus. On one hand, we have being social. On another hand, we have social platforms. How do you feel? Round one, ding ding. So I looked up a definition for it. Being social. If you are social, you like to be around people. You're everyone's friend. Social platforms is a web-based technology that enables the development, deployment, and management of social media solutions and services. It provides the ability to create social media websites and services with complete social media network functionality. So, for me, I thought social platforms was cool in regards to purely left brain. And by those who don't know what I mean by left, I mean being a pervert, being sexually minded, all things raunchy, blah, blah, blah. And then I fall in that category. By the way, I'm running president for Leftville, you know, just in case you want to catch a vote. Social media was a chance to reach out to multiple women who I didn't have a chance to talk to before. I appreciated it for its network idea. I have a gift for meeting people and networking and just making connections. So I appreciate it for that fact. But I feel like social platforms take away from being social because people don't really know how to talk to people, if it makes sense. Like in person, I can talk, we can have this conversation, I can sense this energy. Communication is 85% nonverbal. And by that, it's not 85% text. It's body language. So social cues will give off, being able to read when someone's uncomfortable, sensing an energy in the air, just human interaction. But with the introduction of social networking or social media, it took away an in-person element that I feel has affected the human growth. Before, we've had issues that still exist now, but with social platforming, it's different. I spoke on it on the wild card segment, but bullying. I've been bullied as a child. But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't take this type of pressure, blah. It helped develop my character. I don't stand for bullying. Like I've smacked people. I've done my fair share of anti-bullying. Whether it was with whether it's with violence or word. But it also helped develop my character. I believe in sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me, to a degree, because words can't hurt. But I can't read something on my Facebook post and be like, and get all despair and depressed and blah blah blah. I can get depressed because I haven't had a job for a year and I don't know where I'm going to go in life. I can get depressed for all these other reasons. And I'm not downplaying other people's issues or reasons for poor mental health. What I'm saying is we have new symptoms that didn't exist prior. So you couldn't say, or we have new symptoms and new causes. You couldn't say this caused it. And this is why cyberbullying, someone talking to me online wouldn't cause or doesn't cause as much mental grief for me, because I feel like my generation was more sturdy. We weren't politically correct as much as it is now. We didn't tiptoe the line. We wasn't overly invested emotionally. And oh my gosh, that sounds so barbaric. Don't have emotions and la la la. Sure, that's cool and all, but we also didn't have overwhelming suicide rates, super skyrocket in active shooters and all these other things that stem from cyberbullying. On the flip side, again, I appreciate social platforms. We have so much more chances to excuse me, immerse ourselves in our own culture, immerse ourselves in other people's culture, spread understanding, connect as communities, start new projects that would be really difficult if we had to do everything in person. There's ways to spread knowledge, gain understanding. But on the flip side, we run into new ways of manipulation. At least with being social, I can develop my people skills in reading a crowd. I don't have to, oh, okay, what did they tweet about me? I can look at you. I can be able to have a conversation and I'm like, oh, okay, I got a general feel. Unless you're really good at manipulating your emotions and how you output, I can have a conversation and know where I stand with you. Versus, crap, I didn't post today. I don't know if people gonna like me. I don't know how they felt about that one. Was my speech good? What does Twitter say? You know what I mean? So that's why I feel we've come to a head, and that's why it's being social versus social platforms. Those are my ground basis for you guys to jump in and tell me opinions and ideas behind it.
Want to start it off, Scotty John?
Sure. I disagree. I feel like we're sort of looking at history through sort of rose-colored glasses. When we think about the internet, the internet came to life really in our generation, and social networking came to life in our generation with AIM and different instant messengers, MySpace. Facebook started when we were seniors in high school. So I think the key difference is, being able to get on Facebook, because you had to have a college email when Facebook started to get on there. And once everyone got their college emails, they were able to join Facebook. So I think the age in which we were introduced to social media and in the concept we know of it as today is very different than what these kids are being introduced to. You have children in elementary, middle school on the internet and dealing with social media. So like the internet is their main form of communication. We may be the last generation whose parents said, go outside and play, and have that forced interaction with each other and not, going online and gaming, going online, doing this and that. Everything, interaction is based surrounding the internet nowadays, and lack of in-person interaction. Of course, even more now with COVID and having to be quarantined and stuff. So I think the sensitivity that the younger people face when it comes to their internet interaction, I think it's very much valid because their interaction foundationally includes the internet. Like, we can delete our Facebooks, get off social media, and still function in society. Of course, anyone can. But when it comes to the younger generation, the younger culture, how news is passed, how communication is done, you're on the internet. And if you're not on it, if you're not on social media, if you're not on these things, you are sort of, there's a gap, So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say our generation was tougher or thicker skinned or could handle it better because we got introduced to it older. And I think that's the big difference between us and people who are 10 years younger than us. They got introduced to social media way earlier in age when you had way more interaction. MySpace, I think you could make your top 8. Having a top 16 was the craziest thing, and that's what messed up friendships. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a whole bunch of, I think you could comment on each other's walls. I don't even remember how MySpace looked, but I think you could comment on each other's walls and stuff like that. But I remember the top 8 and that top 16 being who your people. If you ain't got your right people in the top 8, there could be a fight in school. You know what I mean? So it's like, there was less you being able to sort of access me privately over the internet, in a way that you can do now with DMs and through God knows how many different platforms. And I think that it's too much being thrown at children nowadays, and mentally they can't handle it, because if I think about how I was when I was a teenager, or, in middle school or elementary school.
A young John.
A young John. Like, I was extremely sensitive, and the things that people said to me hurt me and stay with me longer than it should have. And I couldn't imagine, being in middle school and being inundated with constant negative things being thrown at me. And back then, depending on the type of child you were, it didn't matter what your parents said, because it was, you're my dad, you're supposed to say that. You're my mom, you're supposed to feel that way. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think really what the younger generation has shown me is that there needs to be an age restriction on social media. There needs to be, once you get into a certain age, maybe after high school, you get introduced to social media, because I think just like with drinking and smoking and doing certain drugs and things like that, there's a lack of understanding of consequences. And not just with bullying, with sexting, posting, thirst traps for your little high school boys, and high school girls, and you know what I mean? All these things, the internet lasts, the internet stays. And I think, we are kind of lucky because we were at the beginning stages, but at the end of these things can follow me because new platforms came about. Like, you don't got to worry about that old Black Planet profile or crazy MySpace pics or crazy AIM messages. You know what I mean? Like, things have been replaced. So I think it's not so much that we're tougher. I think we are not overall have that emotional and mental wherewithal to understand fully what these kids are going through, because we didn't go through that. There was still a certain level of restriction with social media because of technology and things that didn't advance yet when it came to our interaction. So you bullying me through AIM, I just shut down AIM. It was AIM, MySpace. I think Kik came along, but there was limited options, limited ways. You got Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, IG, Tumblr, TikTok, all these things, all these different things that all somehow tied to Facebook that you can like get to people. So I think it's really like younger generation having to understand how to utilize these things responsibly. And I think just like when it comes to driving or smoking or drinking or doing whatever, as you get older, you understand like the reality of it. But when you're young, you know, that small little space, that website, that whatever can be your whole world because there's so much interaction there. So I think it's just
See, that's what.
that
Yeah.
mental education and having to kind of grow with that.
But that's what I was saying was the problem. Social platform takes away being social. Sure, you can talk to other people and interact with them, but you're no longer social. Being social is communication. Communication is 85% nonverbal. So you have to be there in person. Being social on a social network gives you a false identity or character, or it may show your true character. But either way, you don't learn restraints. You don't learn how to read cues, when to say things and when not to say things, when things are inappropriate. So you lose that character development and that social skill. So that's why I say they're not as mentally fortified, because I don't have those bricks to put and layer up. If I have to go see you outside every day, I'm going to watch what I say. But I don't got to go outside. I can go home and type away and just like be done with it. Haha, you never know how I am. I don't care about the rest of the world. I'm hurting, so feel my pain. But if I'm hurting, I can't go outside and just smack somebody because the odds are I'm going to get smacked back, maybe shot. You never know. So that social element of human interaction is missing. And I think that's what affects the core of it. That's why I said mentally they're not as strong. But everything you said, I feel like revolves around lack of social skills. We can get off of this and we can go meet each other. But nowadays, the kid's first thing is pick up the phone. You gonna see Johnny? I'll see Johnny right now. We talking. Johnny, say what's up. You know what I mean? They don't have that mentality of going outside to kick it. And because we're going to be the last of a dying breed, it emphasizes my point more that being social is transforming into social networking. So when people go outside and socialize, go outside and socialize. You mean like at a bar? Like, no, go be social. I am. You don't see all my followers? And taking it from there, our behaviors, our mannerisms, our character is developed by being relevant and having clout. That's the whole social networking right now went from networking to the ideology of bullying. When you're a bully, you have followers. And to keep your followers, you do certain actions or to maintain a certain reputation. Online, you have clout, you have followers. You do certain things to keep these followers to stay relevant, that stay in a position of power.
You got internet.
But if we social, yeah, and if it's social, I'm not gonna go around smacking people so other people can follow me and form this big gang, because I understand I smacked the wrong person, I'm gonna get fucked up. You know what I mean? Or I understand I can't beat everybody, so I might want to work it out or talk it out. I have to see you every day, so you gonna hold me accountable for my actions. But with social media, I don't really get held accountable for my actions. Why are you mad at me? Look what other people said. Everyone's saying this. Or I make fake profiles. You know, there's so many ways to pass the buck and not be held accountable. Or because everyone's doing it and it's socially accepted, I don't see a problem with what I'm doing. You can't hold me on a moral ground or ambiguity. Go ahead, Jay. Excuse me, 2 grounds.
And just to add to your point too, like if I'm being antagonized online, I can block you. And like for me personally, I don't see it anymore. But if we got a circle of friends or you know, there's a school or a community board or something, they're still seeing that, and it's still going to get back to me because everyone else in my circle did not block them either, or everyone else in the school or whatever. So even when you try to disconnect and disassociate from the cyberbullying, there's still access points where this information can get back to you, and it can still affect your life. Because if everybody in my class got the message about what such and such said, even though I didn't get it, I mean, it's still gonna come back to me, and I'm still gonna feel a type of way, and I still got to deal with that because now I got everyone in the class coming to me like, "Oh, you gonna do something about what Eric said in the post? Like, that's crazy. He talked about your mom in the post. Oh, he talked about your dad, whatever. Like, you can't just avoid that then. So I definitely, that's a good call. I was gonna say something earlier about your lighting, so I'm glad you caught it. But just to, I feel like you're talking more so about people skills, because of the whole body language and the physical interaction. And I do agree with that. I feel like the only way to practice people skills like public speaking is to actually do it. You have to put yourself in that scenario. So I think with social media versus social platforms, the video element has done a lot to bridge that gap. So I feel like you can kind of get a sense of what you mentioned earlier through a video chat, get an impression of someone, kind of get that, like those visual cues, those audio cues, and even some physical cues. You know, you don't see my whole body, but you see enough to kind of interpret what I'm trying to say, as far as the body language with the verbiage. But I feel like you're more specifically saying, like, you're talking on the people skills where, like, you're not going to know how to really interact and be a people person unless you're literally around people, because you have to know them, read them, be comfortable around them in order to kind of develop that skill set. But to the point that Scotty John made earlier, this is the world that they grew up in. This is what they know. To them, this is being social. And so you do have this kind of like this gap. It's kind of like mumble rap versus rap, back in the day. Like, we don't get it, but that's the energy that they're on. And every generation is like that. So I look at the whole social media platform thing as like school gossip, right? Like, you're going to say whatever you're going to say, but does it really matter if you're not willing to come and say it to my face? And that's how social media, I feel like, should be taken. Like, everything should be taken as at a grain of salt, because unless you're physically at my door or in my space saying these things, these hateful, hurtful things to me, or disrespecting me in public spaces while I'm there, then I almost feel like it's the same thing we've been dealing with, but just in a different form. So I don't know. I'm more so towards connecting in person and kind of leaving social media where it needs to be. But I think it just depends on the situation. As adults now, we're a lot older. We can't necessarily drive. Like, you're in Virginia right now. Scotty's in Philly. I'm in Philly. So even without social media, to a degree, this podcast wouldn't exist. But I feel like it's a time and a place, because best believe if you was in Philly too, we would not be doing it in 3 different places. We would be all in the same space. So I think the real issue is when people favor social media platforms over being social, that's where it gets dangerous, because you shouldn't try to avoid that human connection. And when you rather just be a face online or a comment online versus a whole actual person, then I think that's the problem. When you put more value on this persona than you do yourself, that's where I feel like it becomes dangerous, and it leads to those self-esteem issues, which can cause people to get very damaged by certain comments or not having followers. You have cyberbullying, you have people that commit suicide, and you have people that just catfish other people to hurt them in the way that they've been hurt. So there's like blades everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Either way you go around, there's danger. But I feel like it's all about the intent and the purpose. And if you go into social media platforms with the intent of actually being social, I think it works. But if you go into a social media platform with the intent of just being a face, just being a troll, just being a comment, just being a whatever it is, a follower, whatever, then I think that that's where the misrepresentation leads to problems.
I think there's a false conception with older generations when it comes to social media and how it affects the younger generation in comparison to their own generation. I think there is an energy that is new to all of us. You know what I mean? An energy with social media that is new to all of us. And there are people of each generation that has trouble adjusting to it. You know what I mean? I don't think cyberbullying doesn't just affect younger people. You know, you have people who have to deal with that who work together or in college or who whatever, you know what I mean? So I think it's really just a matter of if you're able to interact in person or not. Like, there was a boy, we were kids, I remember this vividly. He said he did not need to ever have a wife because he had these. And he put up his hands and they were holding immense amount of pornography in his hand. And he was someone who was extremely socially awkward, you know, very much a weird individual by social standards. So, and he didn't become weird because he can go online and interact with everybody. And this was before that. You know what I mean? You have some people who are awkward. And, you know, social media allows you to, I feel like social media gives you, on the flip side, the ability to interact with people without having too much fear about, you know, your safety other than, you know, the, you know, internet, you know, weirdo stuff. But, you know, when we're all, you know, same, you know what I mean? Like, you can interact with people and not worry about having to like meet up somewhere and do this and do that and kind of dip your toe in that interaction before taking that next step and meeting somebody in public. Like, and also too, back in the day, we had the party line. So you can go on the party line and talk to strangers and be whoever you wanted to be. I don't know if y'all had that in New York, but you jump on the party line here and you have like 10 people on the line and you just talking and doing whatever. You know what I mean? You can go to separate rooms and talk to somebody and do this and do that. So it's like, that was on the phone. So it's like, that was on the phone. So it's like, we had social media, we had social networks even back then, but on the phone. You know what I mean? And that same thing applied. You got on the party line, you talking to this person, you don't know who you're talking to, but you can just be whatever because there's no worry about exposing yourself or being seen or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, none of this is really new. It's just returning in a different form. And I think that's what people tend to forget. Like, you had, you know, I guess back in the day, you go to another town and be somebody else and nobody know you and you just go there and be whatever. And you get back to your hometown, you back in your regular clothes, you know what I mean? So it's just like
another family across the state.
Right. So I just think it's a different medium. It's a different form. It's not necessarily something that's new, but because we may not be used to it in the form that it's in, it seems really new, but it's really same things returning of old, just in a different form, in a different space. So it's like, and you got grown people on these internets getting their feelings hurt and pulled up to motherfuckers' houses. Don't make me cuss. See, I done cuss now. See, I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to cuss. I wasn't trying to curse. So it's like, you know, like you got people pulling up on people because they like, who you talking to? They don't leave it on the internet where it should be, you know? Like, so it's like, it happens. So I think everyone from each generation is learning to adjust to this new phenomenon because Mr. DP, like you said, people talk spicy online because they don't have the fear of getting popped in their mouth. But now people pulling up and people popping off. So it's like, now things are changing.
You said Mr. DP is popping people in their mouth? That's crazy, bro. That's low key a case, bro. You gotta be careful.
People pulling up. So it's like, even the online bullying is changing because with, you know, with the rise of cancel culture, now, you know, we're on the extreme of cancel culture. But with that rise, in the midst of that rise, you saw people being held accountable for what they said online. And now it's getting to an extreme where now you're policing, you know, certain opinions that I may not agree with, but it's their opinion. They can say what they want to say. But outside of the extreme of cancel culture, you now see people being held accountable for what they're saying online. And now even what they're doing offline and bringing attention to that. So I think we're now learning how to utilize the social media in a way that, you know, helps to lessen that abuse. But what you see now, I feel like you still see certain groups targeted online with abuse that aren't held accountable because of whoever owns these platforms. That's a different conversation, different story. But I think overall, you see the growth in how social media is being handled when it comes to bullying and stuff, because people pulling up, because people ain't got time.
Just pay attention to what everyone said. Two Crown, Scotty Jones, they all make great points. And we are not here to argue. We're here to debate. Debate means coming in with an ideology about what you believe, but being open to different viewpoints. Being open to different viewpoints. Being open to different viewpoints.
Scotty Jones.
Go ahead, to ground.
Scotty Jones. I like that name. It might have to be. That's what he called you. He said Scotty Jones. I was like, bruh.
Baby, that was my New York accent. Baby, I said Scotty Jones.
Scotty Jones it is.
Scotty Jones. Look, okay, sorry, Philly. I let you down, all right? I don't say Jones. Scotty Jones.
You get the
okay? Sorry.
But
is it practice?
But I like what you said, because when I heard all of that, the first person that came to my mind was Summer Walker. Now, Scotty Jones, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, Scotty Jones. Let me stop. Scotty Jones.
So you keep the out. So what are we doing?
Please talk to me nice, please. I appreciate it. Okay? I appreciate it a lot. You got Travis Scott fucking laughing. It's crazy. Anyway, I think about Summer Walker, because wasn't she like dealing with a lot of the same issues that Preacher Man was talking about, as far as dealing with the anxiety of being on the main stage, getting all that media attention, but not really knowing how to handle it? Very similar to a Doja Cat, but Doja Cat's kind of come through on the other side. And I think we had a different conversation, but it kind of segues into that, where I forgot what interview it was, but they were discussing artists of the previous generation versus artists from now. And back then, you were trained, you were coached, you had to learn these people's skills, whereas in now you could blow up on the internet, and then, to Preacher Man's point, get in front of a room with all your followers and don't know how to fucking engage them, and can't really hold their attention in real life in the same way that you can from afar online through a platform. So I feel like that's very accurate in what you're saying, Preacher Man.
To touch on what you said about Summer Walker, I think one, her issue, preparedness for the public is definitely something that I think newer artists may be a bit behind on because of how fast they blow up. Like, you don't have to hit the streets and sort of grind your way up doing a whole bunch of local stuff and things like that, like you used to have to do because of how music was distributed back then. But I also think another issue when it comes to that, artists of today, that artists of previous generations didn't have to deal with, is that the flip side to social media and the internet, where you can blow up faster, people have so much more access to you and information about you that it gives people the impression that they feel entitled to you. And I think that's the biggest key. Summer Walker has some boundaries when it came to her performances, when it came to her meet and greets and things like that, that people weren't willing to accept. You know, like, as an entertainer back in the day, you could have a persona and really have that persona be separate from your personal life because people only knew what was in front of them. You know, you didn't have paparazzi hiding in their bushes all the time and digging through their trash and going through a whole bunch of stuff to just get the next quick, soundbite off of them. You know what I mean? And with social media now, and I think the adjustment to social media, and now that you see some artists transitioning from sharing too much information, because I think now, or at least over the past 10 years with the advent and push for social media, you had artists sharing a lot more of themselves that gave fans a false sense of, I know you, and no, you don't know me. You know me as this entertainer. You don't know me as who I am outside of this. And also, just because I'm a celebrity or an entertainer does not mean you have the right to have access to me however you want me when I am performing. And I think when it comes to, like you were saying, Mr. Preacher, as far as that in-person interaction and understanding those social cues, I think now you have a false sense of entitlement when it comes to entertainment because so much gets pumped at you all the time, and you almost have to pump out your music, your images, videos, whatever about yourself to keep up with the demand, because now something that came out a month ago, they call it a throwback. You know what I mean? It's like you constantly have to keep up. So it's like, I think that's the part where it's more so now fueling a sense of entitlement from people when it comes to the internet. Even when you talk to people online, if you talk to someone online and it's like y'all busted up online and everything's cool, when y'all get in person, someone might expect something to happen that, no, it's not happening. Just because we had a couple of jokes online and shit was cool don't mean now we in person and we gonna be doing what you think we gonna be doing. So I think now it's like, I know you because I see all your pics and I see you went on a trip last week and I did all this and did all that. And it's like, no, you don't know me. Okay. All you know is my profile. That's it. And I think that's, in agreement with what you were saying, Mr. DP, an issue when it comes to understanding boundaries now when it comes to social media. And I think that's a line that's very much blurred, like the boundaries.
Cool. So in this scenario, Mr. DP, right? Who won? Who's winning? What's the verdict? I feel like we've all put a lot in on both sides, but I mean, we gotta have a winner, right? What wins? Being social or social media platforms or social networking?
If you want to be technical, you don't have to have a winner. Ties do exist, but for sake of argument, I think reality shows, social media, the art of being social or having social skills is a art. Is no longer a normality. So, like you said, in reference to the entertainers, they got training. They knew how to interact with big crowds. They knew how to interact with the media. So now, if we don't go our way to specifically say, hey, this is how life happens in real life, IRL, you can fail like hard. But also because we are humans and we adapt, and social media is becoming mainstream and widely accepted, and all the pros and cons with it, the normalcy behind that might be, people are awkward in person, but like you said, their social score is popping, so they're 5 stars. It's okay. You don't really need to know how to talk to me. You know how to follow me or like my stuff. I really feel like it's social media that's winning, and we just need to really be careful. It's not bad to have a social media that leads, but being social shouldn't die out.
I just hate the clout chasing with social media, like people sucking dick because somebody popular, like, and it can be on the lowest of levels. Like, this person got 500 followers, now you drop into your knees trying to hop on their clout. Like, come on, like, it's just so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, because you see that
Why'd you do that?
that's something that hasn't changed in society. Like, like even in society, that you're in the workplace, somebody sucking somebody dick because they a manager, or because somebody knows somebody local who has a little buzz, people just flopping to their knees. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just everybody wanting that clout. And it's just like, you can smell the desperation off clout chasing. Like, that's the one thing that hasn't changed. And I think it's even, social media has made that even bigger, because now it's like you can see the clout score, the clout stats, as far as followers, likes, interactions, this and that. And it's just like, bro, like, come on, like, let's stop.
I feel like it also takes away from the people that are actually out there doing things to create change. How often does like the 6ix9ine story, like Trump, like what all the good that's happening that could be blasted, and go viral and be, we could center attention around that, and instead we're centering our attention around things that don't really affect us beyond the persona, So I feel like social media is a machine, and it's always going to be hard to usurp the machine. But we at the same time, we can't let the machine win. So we can't beat the machine, but we can't let the machine win, because it's like the fucking Matrix. Like, it's so crazy.
I was just thinking out of my head.
And there's a key word in social media that people tend to forget, and that's media. The same thing you described as far as the attention that's focused on the negative, the attention that's focused on the popular. That's how our media operates. Our media focuses its attention on the negative, the popular, what has the most likes, what has the most views, instead of focusing on people who are out there helping to stop violence. They just focus on violence. You see what I'm saying? Like, they focus on these negative things to drive our attention, and our social media interacts the same way. So I feel like social media is, to many degrees, like a symptom and a reflection of our society. Like, social media is just an extension of our media, and now we as a society are playing that role in the same negativity, the same clout chasing, the same focusing on, the bullshit, as opposed to focusing on what's real and what matters. I just think with social media, the great plus with social media is that you are able to sort of filter and see things that are important. You're not relying on someone to show you the truth, or someone to show you all the information that you need to see. You can see that there for yourself.
So now we've come to the meat and potatoes, and that's the topic of Discord. So for today's topic, we want to know, does chivalry exist in the mind of a feminist?